We have Star Wars mugs. Isn't it great? I feel like that's one of the best things ever.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video. Today is a special video. I'm doing a collab. A collab!
Oh my gosh.
Am I a official YouTuber?
I think so. I think I'm turning into one too. I mean, this is the first collab I've ever
You're
done.
having two channels, so you're
yes.
official.
This is true. This is very true.
I have my good friend, Myles McKnight.
Hi.
This is Myles.
This is me. This is TJ. This is her channel.
Well, I'm gonna first say, I met Myles. I did a vlog about me being Tinkerbell. If you guys watched that, that was Shrek. That's where I met him.
Yes.
He was the White Rabbit.
I was the White Rabbit with the funny makeup.
That we went out afterwards to the cast parties or like out to eat. Kept his makeup on.
It was so hard to remove though. Like it was caked on. It was like cement. So it would take like
we went out
10
to
minutes.
Buffalo Wild Wings with makeup on.
Yep.
It was
I
great.
just had all of that.
That's part of the fun with theater,
with shows.
Is you go out and you have all the makeup on.
And the nice thing is, like, I feel like theater gives people confidence to just not care. Yeah. Like, because theater gave me the confidence to just be like, I don't really care what people think. I'm gonna go out in my theater makeup and they're gonna look at me all funny. I'm gonna be like, I was in a show. Bet you can't say that.
Well, it's something you can be proud of too.
Yeah, exactly.
And that show is extra special because coming out of a year of a pandemic and everything shut down, and then to be able to be on stage
with people
and sing and dance and just
have a great time. Yeah, honestly.
Tell me like what theater means to you.
Oh, theater is a huge part of my life. Theater, I started when I was in high school, my freshman year. And I got the part of Baby John, so I wasn't expecting to get like a role my freshman year. I was like, oh, I'll be part of the ensemble. I'll try this out and see what I think about it, because I liked music and I liked acting and I wanted to be an actor when I grew up. Yeah. Back then, I still want to be an actor, but you know.
You are an actor. You are.
Like a professional actor. I mean, community theater is, depending on the companies, still professional acting, but you know, like I want to perform at the Guthrie or stuff like that.
Yeah, just like the big name.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the Chanhassen.
Exactly.
What is the other big one?
Chanhassen, Guthrie. But no, so yeah, when I was younger.
Ordway.
Ordway, that's what it is.
That's what I was
That's
like.
what it
Ordway. I know there's another big one.
Yes, but no. So when I was in high school, it was something that I really enjoyed doing once I got the experience, and I think a major part of it was an escape for me. And being in high school, in like the early stages of high school, I was going through this time in my life where I was still questioning who I was, both sexually and like just in that general sense. I was still questioning it. And then my home life, because my parents were divorced at that time, my home life, I was living with my mom and she's not very accepting of that kind of stuff. So it was hard to even, you know, figure it out, because like I was like in this place where, oh, I'm supposed to be this way, or I'm supposed to be this person, you know. So it was a nice escape to be able to be someone else for a short period of time. And it was like a stress reliever, if you know what I mean. Because I would go into it being like, oh my gosh, I had the worst day, and then the one thing that would hold me through the day was theater. Because I would be like, oh, I have rehearsal tonight, or oh, I have a show tonight. It'll be great. I'm gonna have a good day.
Just having that like constant schedule, and just like that, knowing that you have something that day to look forward to.
Exactly.
I totally get that. Like I talked about how theater like just gives me that escape, and I can be someone else, and I can just like put away like my depression and anxiety, like all of that, you know, the grief and everything, just like have a break and just do theater.
Exactly. I love having a break from life, and that's what theater does for me. Is it's just a great break from my normal day, from my crappy day, from, you know, the days that, you know, people normally just go through and they're like, yeah, I had a day, it's a day. And, you know, it just helps me get away from that and remember that there are things in life to enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, and theater's one of them. In my opinion, theater's one of them. But yeah, no.
And you do music as well.
I do.
Do you want to kind of say about your YouTube?
Yeah, I'll tell about the 2 YouTubes that I'm going to be having. So the one I currently have is The Major Losers. I know, funny name. Losers is spelt wrong, which is even funnier. LOSARS.
I'll put the links in all, I'm sure.
Yes, you guys will see it. Yeah, so it's spelled wrong, and what we do on that channel is we actually are currently more focused on skits, and we have a podcast that we do, and fun things like that.
So comedy.
Yeah, more of a comedy. It's more like dramedies and stuff like that sometimes. Yeah. And we also do compilations of the videos we had on our channel, which is also something really fun because the group of people that I work with, we have such a dynamic that when we are together, we bounce off of each other so well that it just becomes this almost improv comedy, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So there's that channel. Check it out. The next channel is not up yet, but it will be coming. It's called Myles M Sings, and it's going to be my music channel. It's going to be centered on music that I create and collabs with other people, and, you know, just kind of covers of songs, and that's what it's going to be focused on. Just trying to get that kind of music path started.
Which you'll have a taste today, because we're gonna play music together.
Yes, it'll be so good.
Yes. So music and theater. Music is like you. Raw.
Yeah, raw.
Theater,
me,
you get to be someone else. Like,
right.
How
raw,
is that like?
So raw me is music centered to the core. Like I won't go a day without like hearing a phrase and singing a song. Like it'll kick in some sort of song in my mind. Like for instance, people like would say, oh, what's a good example? People would say a line or like a phrase, and it would be like almost exactly the line of something from Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I would just break out into that, like that song of Hamilton. Someone could say, like they could end their phrase with "sir," and I could be, "Pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir?" Like I just go right into it. Yeah.
But no, I mean, like for me, like with music, and it's such a healing component with my recovery and my grief, and it's so personal. I know that theater for me is like also an escape, and you can be someone else. I think like performing and playing music is just like, I think more okay, if I had to play my music in front of people, I would be more nervous.
And I'm getting nervous about it, but like the thing is I've written so many songs since I learned how to play the guitar and the piano that at this point I'm like, okay, I'm gonna forget them if I don't put them somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's a song I've written.
I've written.
There's a song that I have written called "Like a Leaf," and it's basically this. The narrative of it is people sometimes feel like a leaf being blown in different directions, not really sure where they're going, and then eventually they find themselves because, like, you know, like a leaf blows in the autumn, it kind of floats down to the ground as it's moving, not really sure where it's going to land, but then it finds that solid ground. So
and
that's kind of,
and
you don't know when it's going to find it. And that's kind of what the song is about. Lyrics aren't like that, but
I can't wait to hear that. It sounds great.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite songs I've written since I started music, and like it was so helpful. I'm gonna plug my boyfriend for a second. He got me a piano, like an actual stand-up piano. Like it's an electric. Yeah. Well, no. God, I wish it was.
Keyboard,
well, it's an electric. Yeah. So it's like one of those really professional Yamahas.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a different brand. I think it's Enzio, something like that. Something like that.
Sounds cool.
But yeah, it's really helpful because not only is it Bluetooth capable, which is amazing, but it can record what I play on an app.
Oh.
And then I can go back and listen to it, and it'll actually play it through the piano. So I can listen to it through the piano and add on to it, or, ooh, excuse me.
I'm keeping that
I can hear it through the piano or add on to it, and it'll record the add-on with the piano that it's playing underneath, which is amazing.
Super cool.
So it's very helpful to have that, and that's one of the first songs I wrote on that piano.
That's
And
really
it
cool.
was very helpful.
I can't wait to hear that song.
Yes, I'm very excited to play it and actually put it somewhere.
Yeah.
I think that is what I'm excited about.
You know my channel is mental health, obviously, my journey. We're gonna talk about bipolar disorder, and we've got someone here that knows a lot about that topic and can answer any questions or clear up some misconceptions.
There's a
about
lot
bipolar.
of misconceptions about bipolar.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's outrageous how many there are.
Well, I'll let you take the reins. I'm just
should
gonna
start,
relax here.
We'll start with my story of it.
Okay.
Because I feel like this
I
can be
love it.
relatable,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like it's happened to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I had bipolar disorder. I didn't get diagnosed with it right away.
Okay.
I was about 14, 15.
And you're how old now?
I am 21.
Just to get.
I just turned 21 recently. Yeah, so I was going to therapy and I was, seeing psychologists and stuff like that. And they didn't want to diagnose me with bipolar disorder because I was so young.
Oh.
And it's a common thing, because if you're young, they just play it off as, oh, they have anger management issues or they have depression and anxiety.
Sure.
So they'll put you on medications for that. One of the factual things about bipolar disorder is when a person who has bipolar is placed on a depressive medication for major depressive disorder, anything like that, they actually end up having worse bipolar disorder.
Wow.
So their bipolar disorder will actually worsen, and it could get to a point where they're a danger to others, they're a danger to themselves, and it's a very scary moment.
Mm-hmm.
That is what happened with me. They didn't want to, put me under bipolar disorder, so they put me under depressed and anxious.
Okay.
And so I was taking 5 depression medications
Wow.
and an anxiety medication on top of my ADHD medication. So I was taking about 7 pills at a time in a day. And I could feel it, like it would work,
Mm-hmm.
quotations on that, because yes, my depression would go away for a little bit, but it would come back later in the day, and these pills are supposed to last the whole day. I would feel it come back, and I'm like, why isn't this working? This is supposed to be working. This is what they told me I had. This is what they described it as. And so I was very confused. It wasn't until I turned 16 and I moved away from my mom's house into my dad's house that I finally got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and they told me to cold turkey cut all of the medications I was taking.
Wow, that's never safe.
No,
Never safe.
it's never safe, but the reason they said to do it is because I had been taking it for so long. If I hadn't cut cold turkey, the effects of it were going to last longer than they wanted it to, in order to get the bipolar medication in and working. So, because if you think about it, you take these medications for so long, your body starts to function with those enzymes and the hormones that are in those medications,
Yeah.
and it starts to function with those, and it has long-lasting effects. So cutting it cold turkey keeps those long-lasting effects that you've had from the past medication that you've taken,
Mm-hmm.
but it dwindles away on its own. The issue with cutting cold turkey is then you can sometimes have an addiction issue, which never safe. No one ever wants to have an addiction issue to a medicine they were taking to help themselves.
Right.
And so they cut me cold turkey. I no longer took those medications, and I immediately got onto a bipolar disorder medication. And the reason I got diagnosed is because the doctor I went to had been seeing my dad, who also has bipolar disorder.
Okay.
It was a very scary moment of my life. There were times where I would have blackout rages, which are absolutely terrifying. If you don't know what they are, blackout rages are a moment of anger that comes out in a bipolar person or a person with really bad anger issues. My certain instance of those blackout rages, I would technically black out, but I'm able to see what's happening. It was almost as if I was taking a back seat in my own mind.
Disassociating?
Yes. Yeah, I was taking a back seat in my own mind and just watching what was happening.
Sure.
And I would see these horrible things of what's happening. Like, scary story. When I was like 15, I got so mad at my mom one moment. I picked up a frying pan from our stove that wasn't hot. I just picked it up and I swung it at her on the chair that she was sitting on, and it broke the chair.
Wow.
Didn't hit her. I didn't end up hitting her, but it broke the chair. And I come back after that moment of out of the blind rage, and I see what had happened, but I don't remember doing it. Wow. Which is why it's called a blackout rage, because you don't remember it. It's almost as if you passed out.
Yeah, you're not in control.
Exactly.
Of your actions.
Yeah, you're completely out of control. Mm-hmm. And part of why they thought I had anger management issues is things like that. So yeah, there are a lot of scary things that come with bipolar disorder.
Yeah. A
lot of scary things. And there are actually technically 3 different types of bipolar disorder. Based on the classifications, the first type of bipolar 1, I believe it's anxiety and manic anxiety. So you have a manic moment and you have an anxious moment. Then there's manic depression. So you have a manic moment where you're feeling good, and then you have depression, where you become depressed. And then there's the third one, which is depressive anxious, which is what I had. I would go through this depressive state, but then immediately after I would have like this moment of, oh my gosh, if I don't get this done, if I don't do this, if I don't do this, something bad is gonna happen. So I was anxious about things all the time. I would never have a manic moment, and that was what was scary, because like you're never experiencing this high of life.
Sure.
And you're only ever experiencing like this middle ground where you're like, okay, things could go right, but if they don't, this is gonna happen. And then you have this low point of life that's just the depressive moment, and it would be really bad. A lot of times when I was in my room, I would have the blinds fully closed.
Sure.
I would never have them open because I was like, I don't want to, and in the mornings I wouldn't want to wake up. I didn't want to go to school, I didn't want to do anything.
Which is why I think out of all of them, that one would be the most misdiagnosed, because people would think that's just major depressive, because you don't really have that really energetic, you're up for days cleaning and doing all this. Yeah,
and so bipolar 3 is really hard to diagnose.
Yeah.
It's very hard to diagnose. Bipolar 1 and 2 are the most common because there is a moment of high of life. You're experiencing life as if, someone who doesn't have a mental disorder would experience it. That's how you're experiencing it. And then you go into that swing, and it could be a day after, a week after, or a month after, or you could have a full year. Sometimes that happens, which is really hard to diagnose as well if you have a full year. But most of the time it's quick changes. So you would have this moment where you're having a high of life and you'd have a low of life. And it could be depression, it could be anxiety. There are a lot of different things that could play into it.
And I'm curious, do the episodes are they triggered by certain situations or things that are happening in your life?
So sometimes it's not 100% that. Most of the time it's just you could have a really good day and then you have a really off day and that's your mood swing.
Yeah, for no reason.
For no reason. There could be no reason. Like I've experienced, like sometimes I've forgotten to take my medication and I would, that day, because I'm not taking my medication, I would experiencing a mood swing. And so I would go from, oh, I'm okay, I'm doing okay, this is okay, to out of nowhere, like I could be doing something I love. Like I think one day at Shrek, I actually had a moment where I mood swinged, but I had thought I had taken my medication that morning, so I wasn't sure why.
Shit.
And so I did have a mood swing on that day, and there was just a point where I was sitting, because we had a lot of time backstage.
Oh, so yeah. We had so much time.
We would play card games. It was a lot of fun. But there was
take a nap, you know.
Take a nap, yes. There was a time where they were playing card games while we were backstage that I just sat there and I was almost crying because I was like depressed. I was depressed in that moment.
Sure.
And I went home. I was still kind of upset. I told my boyfriend, I said, hey, I'm not in a great place right now. I just want to relax and have a moment. He said, you know, he's so supportive. He was right there with me. He was like, okay, let's just have a relaxing evening.
And that's so good that you know yourself, that you can be like, okay, I just need a moment, or you know what you need to do. And
exactly.
And for getting your medication, I know that for myself, I have to measure them out for the week. And for me, if I don't take my medication, I don't struggle with bipolar, but if I don't take my medication, I'll be just like severely depressed. Like my depression will take over, and I have to remember that. And even if you're like feeling good, take your medication, because you know you don't want to get to that point where you have an episode.
And it can happen out of nowhere. And that's another, like, I'm gonna keep saying this. Bipolar is scary.
Yeah.
It is okay to feel scared when you have bipolar or don't know if you have bipolar. Obviously, don't self-diagnose. That's never safe.
Right.
But if you feel like you have this disorder, go see someone. Go see a doctor or a therapist. Say, I think I might have bipolar, and they'll evaluate you based on that statement. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself, especially if you feel you're scared, because it's never fun to be scared.
And there's always someone out there that will help. Yeah, and that's like what my whole, that's all I want to do is just like destigmatize talking about mental health and talking about medications, and just, there's so many people that take medications and that go, and it's getting better, better, like talking about having no shame saying that you see a therapist or that you need help, and I think it's so important.
Yeah. And there's another thing. When I was younger, I had to see a therapist. It was actually court ordered. Oh. Because when my parents got divorced, my mom was like, oh, they're going to be so shaken up about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, she was right, but, you know, it made me not want to go because it was court ordered. Because I was told to go.
Sure.
You have to go. And that's something that happens to people. Yeah. They're told you have to go. You don't have to go if you don't want to.
Right. And it won't do any good if you're forced. And I've talked about this in my channel when I was on court commitment to be in therapy. It didn't help until last year, and last year was the first time I wanted to go. And that was the only time that it was beneficial. But yeah, forcing someone to go or get help,
it's not worth it.
Yeah. And it's hard for friends to see other friends struggling and they want to, like, you know, do something, but the most you can do is just be there for them. You can't force them to.
Yeah, don't force them to. Yeah. You can always recommend and say, hey, maybe think about seeing a therapist.
And give them resources.
Yeah, give them resources, stuff like that. That's always a nice thing to do for your friends, especially if you see them struggling.
Yeah. If you're not ready to go, it's not going to help.
Exactly.
It's really not going to help.
Exactly. And I was forced to see a therapist when I was younger. And so I didn't want to go. I was never wanting to be there, so it didn't help.
Yeah.
Eventually, it took me until this year to actually go back to therapy.
Wow.
And I stopped going to therapy when I was 16. So it's been
like 5 years?
5 years. It's been 5 years since I've been in therapy.
Wow.
And I recently started seeing a therapist, and it's helped a lot. I started seeing him for, I had some intimacy issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I started seeing him for that. And then I also started seeing him for just my past life, because I hadn't talked about it for 5 years. The only people I've talked about it to were potential partners, people I was going out with, my family, my friends, which is okay. You can talk about it to them, but it's not going to do you any good if you don't have someone there to guide you through those questions and be like, okay, and I know this is a weird thing and what people always think of therapists, but how do you feel about that moment?
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
it is a question you have to ask yourself when you're in therapy. Like, how did I feel? What did that moment spark in me that is causing me issues now? And how can I change that, view that in a different way to help me now, instead of looking at it as this part of my life that I want to cut out and leave leave aside, but then it's just going to come back to me.
I mean, if you don't deal with it,
Yeah.
it's just gonna stay there. It's gonna fester.
Exactly.
And I know you don't know this little tidbit, but my husband, he struggled with bipolar.
Oh, okay.
And he never dealt with it. He was in denial, and finally was on medication at the very end, but still wasn't really admitting it to himself that he had it. And he abused that medication and other, other medication stuff. But bipolar, it's scary, and it will take your life if you don't deal with it. And I'm so glad that you are, honestly. And you're only 21. You're so 21. Young.
Yeah,
and you're so knowledgeable about this.
I started early with it too. It was a part of me since I was about 14. It was a part of my life, whether it was misdiagnosed or not. It was still there. Mm-hmm. And there are things, and this is why I said there are things that can trigger it, because there are things in your life that could trigger that mental health to go awry and cause a chemical imbalance in your life. Because bipolar is technically a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
So,
for sure. Yeah, mental health in general.
Exactly. Yeah. And it could be caused by stress. Stress can always take away a chemical, in a sense, and it changes and alters the way your body works in order to deal with that stress. For instance, when you have stress, your muscles tense up, you get sore. It's because your body, you can have a headache. It's because your body is reacting to the stress you are bearing. And it can also exert itself in different ways. It caused a chemical imbalance in me and caused me to have bipolar disorder. When I was 14, my parents' divorce was finalized. I knew that things were changing. It was stressful. It was scary. And so I was there in this moment where my body didn't know how to handle it, and it changed who I was.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things. It's how mental health works.
Yeah. I love getting more perspective about different mental health diseases. Just because bipolar, I know that my husband had it. I know lots of friends who have it. I don't struggle with it personally, so I can't. I'm obviously not an expert on it, so
and I'm not either. I want to put that out there. I'm not an expert on it. I'm sharing my experience with you and what I know of it.
But if you struggle with it personally, you are somewhat an expert.
I mean, yes.
In a sense.
Yeah, in a sense.
With your
Yeah.
But I don't know. Thanks for being vulnerable and telling all of us about it.
I mean, I'm very open about it because I've come to terms with it. I know it's who I am. I know it's a part of me, and it's a part of me that's not going to go away. It can be treated, it can be taken care of, but it is not going to disappear.
Right. And that's what a lot of people think about mental health, and especially like about eating disorders, that you just, it'll go away after a while, or if you'll grow out of it, or something like that. And that's something that makes things, yeah, it's just a phase. And it's something like I can speak to mine is, well, I'm gonna make a whole video about why I still struggle and what makes it worse and what makes it better. And that'll be next video. But just the fact that it's gonna go away, but it won't. It's something that you have to. It can be managed, and you can live a normal life and experience joy, and you can do all these things. But you have to manage it, and you have to, sometimes you have to take medication for the rest of your life. And some people, some people can wean off the medication.
Right.
But everyone's different, and sometimes you have to take medication for the rest of your life. Exactly. Sometimes the thoughts are going to always be there. It's whether you act on the thoughts, yeah, or manage those thoughts. But I mean, it's something that you have to deal with for the rest of your life. And
exactly.
I think that being so young for you,
yes,
that's amazing that you're so knowledgeable about it, and that you know that you need what you need to do, and you can only get better at managing the illness. Like,
exactly.
And it's not a phase; it's an illness. It's really. And I saw firsthand that it kills, and so like if you don't treat it, it will take over your life. It will kill you. Depression kills, and anxiety kills,
and that's why it's not a phase. Like, mental health is something that people really don't fully grasp unless you have it. Like, they don't understand. Like, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people who don't have mental health issues don't understand how straining and draining and exhausting it is to have a mental disorder and still go out and have a day where you're doing things. It might not be a good day because you're experiencing that mental health issue on that day, and but you still have stuff to do. Like, there are things that you actually have to go do. Like,
yeah, I mean, if you have a job, like exactly, holding a job
with mental health is an issue for so many people.
I wasn't able to do that. I was not able to do that, and I had to go to the hospital and so for people to hold a job while dealing with that, I mean, they're superheroes. I mean, how are you able to like hold a job while dealing with that? Did you have to take time off, or?
So I have never had to take time off, except for when I realize I'm getting exhausted.
Okay.
And what I usually do is I just call in a mental health day, which is legal. You are legally allowed to do that.
And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
You are legally allowed to call in a mental health day. Your job will want you to be alive and there, rather than you be dead and they don't have
to call it a sick day. You can say mental health day. Yes.
I had an associate who also had some mental health issues, and she would email me every day saying, hey, I need to take a mental health day. I should mention, I was a manager at a store, and she would email a couple of days out of the year and say, hey, I need a mental health day. So it is okay to do that. And that's what I would do, especially if I'm feeling exhausted, which sometimes could be a weekend. Other times it could be a couple months. It really depends on how you're coping with it and in what ways you're coping it. So it really would depend, because for instance, when COVID hit, I wasn't able to do theater. I wasn't able to do my number one coping mechanism.
You don't have your escape. Like,
exactly.
What do you do?
Exactly. And that was an issue. I had worked for McDonald's as a manager during that time, and I stopped going to school. I was in school for cosmetology, and I would just stop going to school. I would stay home until I had to work, and then I would go to work, and then I would come home. Blinds were shut, keep my room dark, watch Netflix. That is what I did. And it wasn't healthy. It wasn't good for me. But now I'm in a better place, and I have different ways of coping with it now. For instance, my music is one of the ways. I write songs, and it helps. When I write songs, I think about what I'm feeling, and that's usually what I go off of.
Right.
And how you're feeling can be a great inspiration too. That could be one of the ways you turn something bad into something beautiful. Like, take it as an inspiration. You do art, right?
Yeah.
So art is a great thing. You can do it like that. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't necessarily like to do art or music, writing is a great way to do that. Or even like crafting, creating, doing something with your hands, I find, is one of the best ways to get emotion out, because you're using motion.
And even if you don't normally do art, like I had when I was in the hospital, we did art therapy, and whether you were an artist or not, it was a group that we all had to go to, and we all had paper, and they were just like, you know what, just scribble on a paper, and that's what I do, like on a canvas, just like stroke the paint and just like feel the brush move on the canvas. And you know, it's the process of like making it. But
exactly. Just creating is something I find that really helps cope. Sure. And that's one of the things I started doing during COVID, is I started creating. And one of the things that I also found was there was a group of people. I marched in a drum corps in 2017, and
you're just all kinds of talented.
So I marched in a drum corps. I was part of the color guard. For those of you who don't know what that is, drum corps is obviously, you can relate it to marching band. It's not marching band. I'm going to say that right now. It is not marching band, but it is something. It's, the way I describe it, combine theater and marching band. And that is one of the ways you can look at it, because the color guard, they're telling a story with movement, while the band, the drums and the horns, which is purely what the on the field is, and then the marimbas and all the other percussion instruments in the front, they're telling a story with the music. And color guard's job was to interpret that music into movement.
Wow.
And it coming together with groups of people like that. I think the group I had in 2017 was 125 people.
Wow.
And it was musicians and color guard total.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it was a great time, and we made something beautiful, and it was great. During COVID, I found a group online that was doing an online drum corps.
Oh, cool.
And I joined them, and I joined the color guard, and I got a flag, because I didn't have a flag at the time. I got a flag again, and I just started spinning. I went out and I would practice, listen to music while I was doing it, and then just enjoy the creativity that I was making, like the creativeness that I had, which is lovely.
It takes a lot of strength to find a way to do something when the normal way to do something is taken away. I mean, just like, I know that there was a lot of theater that was happening over Zoom. It didn't always work out, because let me tell you about, I was a part of this, like, it was Chicago, okay?
Oh boy, how do you do that over Zoom?
There's a lag. So everyone is, if you do like a duet or a trio, everyone is off by like 10 seconds, because not everyone is like synced up. There's a lag, and so but you just have to laugh, because we're trying so hard and we want to do what we love, and
exactly,
you know, it's just, it's like, it's the best we can do in the moment at that time. And I think that just even takes a huge amount of strength, and you have to like just, laugh, you know.
Exactly.
You just gotta laugh at the situation and what we're trying to do, and it's not great, but I mean, we're trying. But I think that takes a lot of strength to find like a drum corps on Zoom, like who'd know that? Like,
so it was funny because I was actually scrolling through TikTok.
Really?
I found it. Yeah, it was super interesting to me. This
TikTok is good for something. What?
This lovely human, they were just on TikTok and they were like, I miss drum corps. Can we talk about it? And so,
Aww.
you know, they would keep, they kept going on to say, I'm gonna make an online drum corps. If you're interested, comment down below. There were over 1,000 comments on that video.
I should connect you with my brother-in-law. He teaches music and he teaches drum corps. He was in drum corps himself. And
yeah?
I know a tiny bit of drum corps just because of my brother-in-law, but yeah, you should, I should connect you with him because he's amazing. He's amazing.
I love drum corps so much, and the corps I got to march with actually was based out of my hometown, so that was really cool. And we were part of the open class, so we were underneath like the big guys. But the corps that I marched with was called Shadow Drum and Bugle Corps.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was, you know, out of the darkness comes something beautiful, and that's kind of what their thing was.
I love that.
One phrase that we would say before every performance was, hearts on fire, eyes cold as ice. Because we would express ourselves through our hearts and our emotions, but our eyes would be expressing this cold, hard emotion, you know? So that's kind of why we did it like that.
Out in the darkness. You know, the National Suicide Walk, which I'm attending. I don't know when this will be out, but there's a yearly suicide walk at Como Park. If you guys are from Minnesota, it's Como Park. It's called Out of the Darkness. The walk, yeah. So like that phrase is.
When is that?
Next Monday. You should come. Monday night. Next Monday night. Well, you probably have a show.
Well, actually, no. I don't think I have a shift yet for that, so maybe I can. Maybe.
All right. Well,
I think I'm gonna leave my Monday open, and we'll see.
This is amazing. I feel like I could like talk about so many subjects with you. Like this could be like multiple. Like, yeah, but like
we could collab again on it.
My what?
What? I love this.
I want to collab on your channel.
We will definitely do a collaboration. Mm-hmm.
But no, I really appreciate you being vulnerable and telling me and talking about all this. Like, I love this. This is like the best thing that I like to talk about, like this topic, like mental health in general, and just like, I think that young people should feel like they can talk about this subject more often to their peers or to friends, and not be ashamed and not feel like they're less than. It's something that is needed, and I feel like I now look at you differently. I look at you as stronger. Like, I look up to you more
so sweet.
Now that you told me this. Like, I always look at people in a brighter light when they share personal things or things that are vulnerable. I look up to them. So
I do too. I love it when people are able to share.
I mean, I knew you were special. Let me just tell you. Okay, so like, little story. It was the beginning of the rehearsal process for Shrek, and for me, when I'm in a show, I tend to be a little bit introverted, and I don't like to, you know, talk to a lot of people off the bat, and I'm very shy. And Myles was one of the first people to come up with me and actually like talk to me. It was like a break or whatever. Yep. And you came up to me and you started to talk to me and ask about, well, what's Tinkerbell's story? Because I've like
that's exactly what I said. I said, what's Tinkerbell's story?
I'm like, what?
I was was like, what's Tinkerbell's story? I wanna know more about you.
You wanna know about me? And that really meant a lot. So I just wanted to let you know that really meant a lot. And
well, I'm glad.
And ever since then, and then we stretched together. It was kind of our routine
because we both had
like big tricks at the end. Yeah, we both did like the last song. We did like acrobatic tricks, so we had to make sure we stretched, and we had a lot of time backstage.
My boys would not have been happy if I did not stretch.
Let's just say he did a straddle jump.
I did a straddle jump, and if I did not stretch with my tight hamstrings, ooh, that would be painful.
Stretching is important.
Always stretch if you're going to do a trick like that. Always do it. There was one night that I almost forgot to do it, and I quickly just did like a quick, like, okay, we're gonna stretch the hamstrings out backstage.
Got it, stretch. Well, I hope we're in many more shows together, and I hope that we'll play more music together, which coming up very soon, we're gonna play some music.
Yes.
And thank you so much for talking about bipolar, and I'd love to hear more, and we'll collab more, and you guys. And like comment below any questions about bipolar. I'll send them Myles' way, and I'm sure he'd love to answer
I would love
them.
to answer any questions you guys have. Right. I will relate it to my experience, so it might not be the same for everyone. Just keep that in mind. But I would love to answer any questions you guys have about bipolar.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's take a break. I'll close it. Take a break. Take a break.